What risks were you afraid to take on back then and why?
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with this. This podcast was a big risk.
It was a big risk?
Not the risk of us doing a podcast.
Okay.
Oh, that was fine. The topics we talk about, pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
Whether it's from my brain surgery, it's getting a little touchy-feely, how we talk about, men's depression and mental illness, how we talk about some of the conspiracy theories.
The flat earth, Satan.
Flat earth, the Santa Claus, Halloween, 9/11, all that kind of stuff too. I get some weird, you get some weird feedback from those. And that was a risk. I was kind of not sure, there's certain things we made sure we don't talk about because, again, either it's too politically charged and, and sometimes it just polarizes you. So I'm very cognizant of that. But even some of the stuff we talk about, listen, I have a conspiracy brain. I always have, but I was kind of always scared of showing that. People that know me know that. One of the reasons why we left the Catholic Church was because of that reason, right? It was one of those things. But get to know me, you'll know that, right? But you're always kind of scared. You don't know what people are going to really think. And then at one point, I was like, well, if you really want to get to know me, and then you brought this point up, we want to know DC. Okay, you really want to know. Let's pull back the layers little by little. So I think it was a little bit, it may come off easier, but sometimes it's just we did a little at a time. And then they kind of I'm like, all right, let's do this.
And I think you finally hit a stride where you're like, F it, I don't care. We're talking about, and I felt that energy after some time, right? We kind of started, and I think there was one point we were talking about Trudeau, we're talking about COVID, right? It kind of started like that.
Surprise! I don't like Trudeau. Surprise!
And then after we're like, man, what are people going to say about this? And then we just reached a point where we actually grew in confidence in actually preparing for these shows because we're like, you know what? We're developing an audience. People want to hear this. This is different than what they hear. So let's just do us. Yep. If you don't rock with us, you don't rock with us.
Yeah. And I talked to, the funny thing is we had our awards banquet in December, and it was my broker of record came up to me, and it's we had the connection because his daughter had all the brain surgeries too. He was one helping me with her when I had mine. And it was funny. And he goes, and he takes me aside. He's like, I just want to talk about your podcast. And I'm like,
he pulls you aside.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit. He goes, no, he goes, Dave, I love it. Oh. I was like, right. He goes, I love that you're talking off topic things. And it's not only about real estate. I'm like, let's be honest, Mike, I could talk about real estate all day long, but I think people will get bored. He goes, exactly. And he goes, you're showing people a little bit of your side. I'm like, I was a little scared of what the brokerage would think about some of the things I say. But they also know me that I'm not a normal realtor. So I think that kind of plays into it a little bit. So, but I was a little scared to figure out what my brokerage would say about it too.
And how did your wife and family react to you actually being public about these things now?
So again, Natalie doesn't watch any of my stuff. So she just kind of she'll see some of my clips and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, you're talking about that?" And she'd ask though. I joke, she doesn't watch a lot. We don't listen to podcasts, a lot of stuff, and we don't do that a lot. We just don't. We don't have a lot of time. Or I'll listen to podcasts or audiobooks in my car by myself. Yeah. So when I'm saying that, we don't do them together, right? So when I'm having some clips and going back and forth, she's like, "Should you be saying that?" I'm like, and we talk about she's always a little more conservative on the side because she doesn't do that stuff. And I'm like, well, no, this is kind of what I wanted to do. And she's like, okay, and that's it. Nothing. My family, on the other hand, it's, you know what? It's I have my uncle and aunt. Sometimes they'll message stuff, they'll say stuff, and but in person, they're they just shake their head, and sometimes they'll laugh, or I had my good friend, Mr. Bartolo, Bob and Bartolo, and he's like, you got some. He's family basically. I played hockey with his son. When growing up, played against other goalies again, and then I lived with the other son in university. So and then I've sold. Anyway, long story short, the Inter Bartolos are my family, and we had this case. I always give back, so I give some money for the charity golf tournament that they help run, and and it's funny. So we were talking on the phone. He's like, I started listening to your podcast. He goes, I don't believe all the shit you're talking about. I get this a lot. And he's like family. He goes, but one day we'll have a beer. We'll talk about 9/11 and stuff too. I want to hear your insight. He goes, and again, it's just one of those things, right? It's and they're American too. So it's half American. And it's funny because you're hitting a point, but it's I think a lot of people are opening up, realizing the stuff we're saying about it. It's not us saying it. We're showing stuff. So it's stuff they've never seen before or heard before. And it's kind of hitting a chord, but sometimes it's not a bad chord.
We're starting a dialogue. That's what we're doing these
days.
We're starting a dialogue.
Well, it's always about a dialogue. And the thing that I loved, I think I talked to you about this before. I've had men reach out to me and say, thank you for talking about that because nobody talks about this. And I tell my followers, DM me if there's something you wanted me to talk about it because we as men don't always get an opportunity to do that. And if you just want a place of comfort or a safe place, message me as well. I had one of my followers too on IG asked me if I wanted to, mentor him and stuff too, because he was going through some depression stuff. And I said, yeah, we'll talk to your therapist. If that's makes sense to you, then yeah, absolutely. So it's weird because it goes beyond the numbers.
Exactly. You can't, some of those things you don't measure.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about how we can, how people can actually advance forward this year. One of the key things I mentioned early on is that, when we start off the year, we have this high energy of accomplishing a lot of things. It could be health, it could be business, relationships, but that's a natural thing to do is because you're having a clean slate towards something. Happens all the time. You're like, you know what? Last year was last year. This year is my year. And you just find yourself.
I'm just thinking that quote. It's like, you got to stop using the holidays as for your reason why you're gaining weight. You're fat in August.
You're fat in August, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. What do you think about those people, right? Like the new year, new me people, like.
They're the reason why I do my Motivational Monday.
Yeah.
Because, and I love the Motivational Monday because it talks about it, but motivation only gets you one part. It's the discipline. Okay. You got the motivation, discipline. So I've been trying to push the discipline more than anything else. The only thing, you can be motivated, but if you don't get off your ass, it's not going to matter. Right?
Yeah.
It's not going to matter. What I say to these people, it's great. I love your ambition. I love your goals. What's the next step? Like, well, how are you going to be disciplined? And the thing is, and I also say to them, don't go too hard too quickly, because then you'll lose motivation and you'll lose your discipline. Get into habits to change your life. Don't do fad diets that it'll just be like a carnivore diet's supposed to be great, but I can't imagine anybody being in the carnivore diet more than 6 months. I did a vegan diet for 8 months. It was great for that point, but then I started to have some drawbacks. Same idea. Like I would say, like small things that you can change your life will have great impact, and be disciplined about them.
It's about building that momentum.
Exactly.
Slowly. Yeah,
exactly.
And I think a lot of people, they come in and they want to tackle their goals right away. They're listening to like a podcast.
All the steam ready to go. And guess what? And just like a wick.
Crashes
boom.
down.
And then exactly.
Yeah.
It burns so fast.
So by March, you're back to
Did I
where
scare you, Isaac? You okay, buddy?
By the time they're like a quarter through the year, they're back to where they were in the beginning. Like
if not
where they were
worse.
even worse.
Yeah.
Right. So you're like working out 5 times a week. Like, how do you even maintain that? Right. They're eating the same food like for days and days and days. How do you maintain that? Soon you're going to hit that craving. You're like, man, I wish I could have that glass of wine. I wish I could have that beer.
Have it. For fuck's sakes, have it.
Man, this is the thing. I hate people who are so 100% on their goals all the time. Like, for example, like eating. I'm like, man, have that freaking glass of whiskey. Have that beer. Have that wine. It doesn't mean you should be all into your diet that you just deprive of yourself of the things that you actually enjoy.
One of my best friends, his name's Josh Strassman. He lives in Nashville now. Went to visit him.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture.
Yeah. I love Josh. Josh is a brother of mine. He's just like, we're just always so like-minded. I go visit that MF and he's always in great shape. He's always in good shape. He goes, I only lift 1 day a week and I eat ice cream every day. I'm like, fuck you. Good for you. But he gets good rest. He's always walking. He's always doing something, right? He's always being active about it too. But he's just like, why not? Why not have ice cream every day if you can have it? Why not? Again, he's not eating a bowl for dinner or every night, but it's like he'll have like a small thing, like enjoy it. Like, and his wife or fiance will have a glass of scotch at night, and just like that's what they do. It's like they're not going overboard. Again, it's moderation, something, but enjoy it. I was watching, I forget, was it Eva Mendes? I forget who it was. It was one of those actresses. They're always in good shape. Or was it the girl from the Goo Goo Doll? From the dolls, the Pussycat Dolls. Anyway, she was like,
I don't know.
There's one of these things saying, like, there's a couple things you're saying. One, I've heard people only eat like a bowl of stuff like that would size your stomach and keep the calories down. But the other thing is like saying, if you're thinking about it and you're craving it over and over and over again, then indulge. But if you can put it away for an hour and you lose your thought of it, then it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But if you can't stop, so for example, you're saying having a scotch. If I'm looking at it like, ooh, I want a nice glass of Glenlivet.
Yeah.
16-year, nice and smoky, like little. Sorry, it's not. It's nice peaty. It's like that's my drink, man. It's a good one, man. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna have it.
Yeah.
If in half an hour it's gone out of my mind, I guess that's fine.
I don't want it.
If an hour's time, I'm like, my mouth is watering and stuff. I'm like, damn right, I'm gonna have it.